Welcome. This is the Drupal usability meeting for February 24th, 2023. I'm Benji Fisher moderating, and also here are Ralph Kohler, who's sharing the screen, and we'll start off the discussion. Aaron McHale and Simo Helston. Thank you all for joining, and go ahead, Ralph.
Thanks, Benji. The issue we're taking a look at now is issue number 5688. Resend welcome message from admin user edit. I've already applied the patch. It's basically about, in the before state, if you go to a user edit page, in the current state, you just have the save and the cancel account local action button, and the batch, what's the name? Batch processes available with no indication about resend the welcome message. And the patch applies basically for one, a send welcome message to the user edit page, as well as add action, send the welcome message to the selected users. If we take a look at an installation, if we go onto the people's page, I've created a few accounts, and for example, you're able to go to admin, check admin, admins, and notified, and select the action, send the welcome message to the selected users, apply, then you get a status message, send the welcome message to the selected users was applied to 3 items. If you go to Mailhawk, you see admin, admins, and notified get an email stating, thank you for registering at Drupal. You may now log in by clicking this link or copying. And the other option is I could go into there, admin, oops, I took the wrong path, and go underneath and click send welcome message. And again, a welcome message is sent. But there is one slight problem I've noticed. Oops, go back. For one, I could go into my user one, for example, our caller, oops, and go there, send a welcome message, go into Mailhawk, and there was a message sent to me welcoming me to the site. Same for, I could pick that one. I could basically pick each account available, send it, and it doesn't make any difference between if an account is already accessed or it is not so far. So that might be a problem from my perspective.
All right, so I guess this all works as designed. There are no clear bugs. It's just that a welcome message is an odd thing to send to someone who has previously logged in.
Yeah. Or even the site administrator account. That doesn't feel right. And one other detail, oh no, let's go back to another, where the delete, the cancel account button is also there. It is hard to grasp the function of the send welcome message, meaning you have to read it. And maybe it would be beneficial to add maybe an envelope icon, similar to the bin icon for the cancel account. So to add a visual cue to the button, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So what you're showing us is a site where the issue already has a patch or merge request applied. This is not a plain Drupal site.
No, that is the patch applied already.
Okay.
As
Oh.
I've shown you the two screenshots with the before icon, before screenshots there. We don't have the third button between the save and the cancel account, and the action is missing. That is the before state from the issue summary. And
I see.
in the site there, the patch is already applied.
Could you go to the configuration, then account settings?
This
So
one?
like under configuration.
Ah, sorry.
Yeah, and then account settings. Scroll down, please. Keep going. Okay, so here are all of the email templates relating to users. What I'm wondering, I just wondered if there was, yeah, okay. If there was other ones, because my thinking is, well, is there other situations where you might want to resend an email, but all the other ones are for very specific situations. I don't know if like sending the password recovery email, is that maybe another case where you might want to send that on behalf of a user? I don't know if there's a way, like if there's an easy way in the admin interface to do that, or if, I think the only way to do it is to go to the reset password form. So that might be a case where you may also want to be able to just send that email for a user. And I wonder if in the actions drop down, we need a group for like email actions, perhaps. And with the account form, if maybe we need rather than action button at the bottom, if there needs to be some other kind of something else that allows you to send these, certain kinds of emails like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Why is it just the welcome message that we're singling out as something that can be sent this way?
Mm-hmm. And also, like, there's two welcome messages: the welcome the user created or welcome approval, awaiting approval. So, like, could you then send this? Presumably, the one it sends is the first one. So, I wonder if there's logic there that prevents, it makes sure that the user receives the most appropriate email based on their account status.
1 second. We've taken a look at admin has already accessed the page. And admin there got sent the welcome.
Yeah, I think that's the one it's sending.
Yeah. And that's the no approval required.
Okay.
And 1 second, let's take a look at admins in contrast that has not accessed the page. But they don't need a approval, so it just doesn't matter.
If you change one of those users to the blocked state and then send it, I wonder if you get a different email then, because that's the case where a user is being created but requires approval.
Okay, 1 second. Save. Okay, it's blocked now.
Yeah.
And sending an approval. Yeah. Account details for not notified.
Is that did it get the correct template?
Present Drupal, you. No, it doesn't look like. That is not notified. Thank you for registering a Drupal your application for an account. All right, try to resend it another time.
Oh, maybe that is the correct.
Mm,
Oh, even that button changed. It said send awaiting approval message.
Ah, okay. Well, that's clever.
oh, indeed, yeah.
So, well, now we've established that.
A question, what happens when user has logged in for the first time already? What is that still like send welcome message? Because that kind
Yes.
of okay, yeah, because it could be also that after the user has logged in, it could be send password recovery message.
Nope, that was the initial thing I've shown with the, for example, admins user as well as my main user. It still says send welcome message.
Yeah, because if it changes, it's kind of a, if it doesn't change always, then it's kind of a not so clear, because yeah, I was thinking that if it starts with waiting for approval and then you can resend that one and then welcome. So, and when the welcome message is sent, then after the user logs in, then it would change maybe to password recovery or something like that. So that could be useful.
Okay, so there are actually several objections I have. So one is that it's kind of complicated. It's doing all this logic to figure out which is the right message to send. And no matter how hard you try, something's going to come up where some administrator wants to send the message that you didn't think was the right one to send. So my first objection is that we should just give the administrator the choice of which message to send rather than figuring it out, depending on whether the user is logged in or not, blah, 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 whether the user is blocked. So that's my first objection. Second objection, I really don't like having the secondary button at the bottom of the user edit page. This is just not the right place for it. It's not something that comes up often enough that that it should be that prominent, and it's really fundamentally different from the save or delete account links that we have there at the bottom of the page. So I don't like that. And then the third thing is that I'm not sure that this is something that people need so often that it should be part of Drupal core. You could easily implement it in a contrib module, like the user edit form. I guess if you really, really want that button at the bottom of the page, you can do a form alter and put it there. But certainly the bulk actions are really easy to implement in a contrib module. That doesn't have to be part of core. So my first thought, without having read any of the discussion, I don't know how many people actually need it. It's just my impression that this is a small use case. But my first impression is that we should close this as won't fix, and if someone wants to do it in a contrib module, they can do that.
Also, another thing is that there is a lot of large sites that have like external login, and they don't use this kind of allow this kind of messages necessarily sent from Drupal. So then there would be kind of all this different kinds of login modules would kind of either there should be some setting to disable this in core, or those different modules would need to implement something to disable this one, because it would kind of be so prominent in the like user edit things, and then those messages are often not relevant if you log in via some Microsoft Active Directory or some other system. So it might be add stuff that needs to be removed by others.
Yeah, I broadly agree with what's been said. I definitely don't think this should be an action button at the bottom of the form. I would suggest this be added as a separate tab, because a separate local action, so to speak, local task, whatever, yeah, local tasks, a separate tab along the top when it's on page, if it was to be added, because we try to follow, generally speaking, we've tried to follow the principle that, and we've applied this before with things like role settings, where one form shouldn't try and do too many things. You should be, you know, one already the user form is has a lot of things on it, and we're just further adding to the chaos, so to speak. And so following the same logic we've used in the past with, like I said, things like the role settings issue, we moved that onto its own settings screen, created the role settings screen to move the administrator role configuration out of account settings. And we followed that pattern. We've recommended that, I believe, in other cases. I would certainly suggest we recommend that. And I don't know exactly what whether this is simply just a button, or whether you get like a set of radio buttons to choose, as you suggested, Benji, to choose which message to send. Because yeah, I think us trying to programmatically figure it out may just result in this issue going around in circles forever. And potentially, as you said, is not gonna, there's always gonna be edge cases. So yeah, perhaps a sort of maybe a set of radio buttons, and you can choose which message to send. I'm not sure. I don't even think radio buttons are necessarily a good idea. We've explored the checkboxes. Using a checkbox when it's not actually saving the state of the checkbox is not a good idea. So whether it's a series of buttons, again, I'm not entirely sure what we should use. Maybe it's a drop down is more appropriate. But yeah, that I think I'm gonna hand over to Ralph, but I'm rambling now.
One thought in regards if it should be a won't fix. I think the issue is running long enough, and I'm just started to scrolling through. It looks like there is a certain need, and I like the idea moving the button to a dedicated tab, as Aaron suggested, and that would fix also my gripe that the button at the bottom was in between the other two and it was hard to process. And that would also leave the option open, which I really liked, what Aaron suggested, to add in a follow-up issue the option to resend the password, for example, or reset the password for users and for admins. That might be way more cleaned up and way more straightforward for users to actually use.
Yeah, I also like the idea of having a separate tab, because I also noticed that it would be a problem or kind of a confusing if you have the same form where you can edit the email address. Let's say somebody types in the incorrect email address and corrects it, and then tries to send a welcome message to the correct email. So it would be the editing of the email would happen on the same form than sending it. So it might be unclear whether or not it is saved when one sends the email message to the email that was just typed in. So that's kind of would be also fixed, having it as a separate tab.
Yeah, another thing
Yeah.
you can do with a separate tab is give a little more description. You might have the subject line of each message, and that would make it easier to decide which message it is you're trying to send.
Yeah, or even show like a preview of the whole message. You could like building on that. And that is actually what you said, Simo, is such an important point, because the problem here, I think, if you were to change that email and click the button, it would not save your changes. It would send the email to the old email address, and you'd be like, you would still see the old email address. You'd have to click save, then scroll back down and click the button again. For the record, I'm not even a fan of the delete button being there. Like, it suffers from the same fundamental problem. Delete's a bit different, because like if you click delete, you're gonna go and delete the entity. Like that's I can let that one slide, but like yeah, it's yes.
And just one question about Simo's point to add the ability to disable that setting in core in general. Where would that be best placed? I have no idea yet.
I was thinking that just the first idea that came to my mind is that at the same place where you enable and disable user contact forms.
Is there I think there's on that, Ralph, where you were just there, I think there is one of them that has some configuration attached to it. If you scroll back down, maybe just flick through, because I'm like sure there's one that's got some like additional configuration.
You mean more than just subject and body?
Yeah, there's one. So yeah, there's some. Okay, so some of these you can configure to be on or off. So maybe there is a case where we would also add a checkbox to say, allow this to be manually sent, you know? And that would be the perfect place to provide that sort of like turning it on and off kind of thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have consensus here. I think also we should remember that our job is to advise on usability. So I personally think it's a won't fix, but that should not be part of the usability review. But we do have some strong usability recommendations. And one is on the user edit page, do not make it a button next to save, but make it a separate tab. And the second recommendation is in both places, the bulk operations and this new tab. Let the admin decide which message is sent rather than deciding for them. I think that's all we have to say.
But
Go ahead.
I still think I would hide the send the welcome message to any account that has already accessed the page.
I just feel that there's going to be some edge case where the administrator wants to do that, whether or not it's a good idea, and I don't want to stop the administrator.
Yeah. So in theory, there could be some site that adds to the welcome message some legal terms or something like that. That would be a little bit silly to do it like that, but it could be done. So
Okay.
it could be a way to send a reminder about what was agreed on.
I just put into the Zoom chat a link to the issue where we introduced the role settings screen. And so Ralph, I'm assuming you're commenting on this one, but whoever's commenting on it, you can use this one, reference this issue as an example of where we introduced a new form for a specific purpose and the rationale for doing it.
Issue number is 987978.
What a great issue number for someone who's dyslexic.
Yeah, actually, that's yeah. There's some real great issue numbers out there, that's for sure. A 4-digit issue number is we got some great issue numbers in this meeting because we got this one, we got a 4-digit issue number. That's I almost did when I first saw this issue being tagged in the meeting, I did a double take. I was like, we still have 4-digit issue numbers. Someone can find an open 2 or 3-digit issue number, then you were. I don't imagine there are any, but yeah. I guess the only thing we did talk about was the bulk actions and whether we should have what we should do about those, because would we have a bulk action for should we have a group in there as I suggested? I don't know if you can even do groups, but if we can, should we have a group to group these actions? And then secondly, should we have an action for every email that you can send? I would guess that's where we're leaning.
Oh, no. For one, that's too much clutter. This does not deserve more than one item in that select list. But bulk actions have a configuration screen optionally. So send an email to the bulk, to the options list. And then when you select that, you get to the configuration step. And where the only configuration is you choose which one you're going to send.
Oh yeah, okay. That's a good idea. I see what you mean. It's like when you do the user cancel one, isn't it? Ralph, if you do the user cancel action, do you get the configuration?
I don't want to cancel my user.
Good call.
Yep.
Yes.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what we should do then.
And on that config screen, maybe it might be a good idea if you, for example, have radio buttons and select a welcome message for reason X, to add a preview of the text used underneath.
Yeah, you could. We could optionally recommend. Yeah, it could be it feels like that could be a follow-up issue though, of like adding the preview of what the email is going to be that is going to be sent. But yeah, I think that's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, so it's when I said let the administrator decide, this is what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
The administrator gets to choose which email to send.
I'm wondering as well, like I think in this case radio buttons are a good idea, but for the local task on the user, like if you just go to the user and then you click on the like whatever, like send email, I don't know. I don't know, are radio buttons a good idea? Because, or would a drop down list be better? Because it's not like the state is going to be saved. So I feel like with checkboxes, radio buttons, unless we're actually saving the state, I'm not sure they're the best idea. Maybe a drop down is better, because the first thing in the drop down could be select the email to send or something.
I really don't think of select list versus radio buttons as implying that sort of difference. Remember when Christina was joined the meeting several weeks ago, and we talked about just using a select list when there are a certain number of options, and then switching back to radios or checkboxes when there are fewer.
Yeah.
I think that radio buttons are the right choice. Certainly not checkboxes, because what checkboxes suggest is that you can choose more than one.
Yeah, I guess I'm just thinking about it from the perspective of like when you hit the button, it's not actually saving the state of what you've selected, it's just performing an action. So that's where I'm coming from in that thinking, is that the right way to convey that? Because usually the user expects you select something and it would save the state, but maybe it's fine for radio buttons.
Yeah, I think moving it off of the main edit page onto a separate tab is enough to solve that problem.
Yeah.
It's pretty clear. You're not saving state, you are sending a message. And that's
yeah, usually like if we have a like limiting, like not too many options, then with the radio buttons we can see all the options at the same time, so that's always nice, so we can choose.
+1 to that.
But from my understanding, let's say we have the welcome message option and the reset password option on the tab. So you have a radio button with the options for the welcome message and the send welcome message. And you have the, for example, reset password also with one option or two, or without any. And there's no save, but just on click of the button, the chosen option is sent. Is it correct from my understanding? Okay.
Just every available message is listed on the page. They can choose any configured message.
Okay,
and yes,
then
when they click the button at the bottom of the page, it sends the email.
Not necessarily on the button.
Yeah.
If you have several different types of messages, meaning you have welcome messages and password reset messages, that those are different. You can't have one common button for all the different types, I suppose.
You have a radio button to select which message you want to send, and then you have a submit button at the bottom of the form that will send the message.
It's basically the equivalent. It's the same pattern that we use for the delete or cancel account form. Like you choose from one of 4 things, you click the button and then it does that thing. And then we could have an optional follow-up to make it so you can then configure which ones are available.
So you mean the radio button option list would be all the options for welcome messages and all the options for whatever else, like password resets in a single radio button list merged together? Okay.
Every available email is listed. And there are only what, six or 8 of them. It's not an overwhelming.
Yeah, my point was just from my first idea was to make a semantic separation between welcome messages as one block or field set, let's say, and one field set for the reset password. That was my initial thinking. What I've understood now. Okay.
Yeah, I think that could get complicated because then you have to try and track between the radio buttons across all of them, and that's gonna if you select one and then select the radio button in the other list, you then have to basically deselect all the other ones somehow, and that requires like some JavaScript, and then we're just getting a bit complicated, I think.
My initial thought was just to make it separate and clear and don't have a single list for all the different type of options. That was my first thought, but yeah, I definitely see the technical implementation problemality.
I think it's like as Benji said, it's not a big list, and as long as we communicate clearly, like if you went back to the account settings screen, you can see that play out with all of the vertical tabs. Yeah, like you can see all the different tabs there. So it's kind of an equivalent of like taking the text from these tabs and turning them into radio buttons, and then
have consistency between the two forms.
But honestly, that way the cancel account could also be moved to the tab. If you choose the account canceled option, then the email could be sent there, and at the same time the account could be canceled.
Oh, that's a good question. Like,
yeah, like that could get confusing because I don't think we would want this form to be canceling an account, but at the same time, if the option implies that you can, like it might accidentally imply that you could cancel the account.
No, I think this form should just send an email. I don't think it should have any other effects.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I mean. I'm just worried that like if we do, for instance, have the ability to send the account canceled email, like that could imply to an admin that, oh, if I select that, does that mean the account also gets canceled?
I think the same point applies to several of these, that all we're doing here is sending the email. We're not creating an account. We're not approving an account. We're not blocking an account. We are just sending an email.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
I think we can say that once at the top or the bottom of the form.
So basically only password recovery and the different welcome messages would be candidates for the tab option list.
Yeah, to me, I think so, because if we try to do the other ones, it's gonna like we I just feel like it's introducing unnecessary confusion potential into the interface, and yeah.
Well, account activation, it has those username password, so if like might be useful to send that, so with the default content. But this actually these ones, they also have this the ones that have a one-time login URL. So there is it should be able to generate those because they don't last forever. So so there would be some logic there for those ones. I don't know which part of the site does that. So it's not only sending messages, it's also creating one-time login URLs.
So we're basically saying we have options for the welcome, I guess the 3 welcome emails, and then the password recovery one, I think, to me, are the only ones that really make sense to send.
Well, there is a confirmation, account cancellation confirmation that requires user interaction. So that's something that if somebody doesn't respond or has some like a misconfigured email, that might make sense to be resent.
Yeah, but I guess you could, well,
I still feel we should just
Hmm.
leave it up to the administrator and not
Hmm.
decide in advance for them.
Yeah. And also this can be, well, if the checkbox is for not those notifications activation cancelled, if the checkbox is for not like that disable the notify user, if they are not checked, then we shouldn't use those, I think.
yeah, if the you know, yeah, so some of them have checkboxes there, so
Yeah, it's the 3 of those
yeah,
that you usually don't.
if the email isn't enabled, like
Mm.
by ticking the box, then we probably shouldn't display that option.
Yeah, so there's 3 of those, I think. So account activation, account blocked, account cancelled.
What if we use these tabs? Like, so when you get to the form, you see these, basically these tabs, right? And you can click on the tab, and then there's you get the preview, but then you get the button to send the email. So the button is inside each tab.
So instead of radio buttons, have a separate send email button for each one. Yeah, I think that would
Yeah.
work.
So yeah, you arrive, you click on the tab to get to the send email screen or whatever it's called, and then you're presented with the list of vertical tabs like we have here with the options that are available. You select the tab, or maybe the first one is always, you know, active anyway, and then you can see a preview of that email. Because then we can just like, we don't even need any additional like logic to show the preview, because the preview would just be part of the content of the tab. And then there's a button that just allows you to send that email. And that would also work for the bulk action as well.
So you're saying that for the confirmation form in the bulk action, rather than have radio buttons, you'd also want the same sort of vertical tabs interface?
I'm saying we could, like, there's no reason we couldn't use the same pattern for both. Because then again, it allows us the space to properly display what the preview would be, and then you could see the preview, then there's a button that allows you to send it. So I feel like that's a really natural interaction pattern for people.
I think confirmation, it's usually best if it's only yes or no. So no selections on the confirmation form.
Yeah, but we're talking about the bulk action confirmation
Yeah.
form. So you still need the option to select which email you're going to send on that form. So it's not just a simple yes or no. So it's like how if you go to the account cancellation bulk action, you get the 4 options to decide which method of cancellation you want for the users you've selected.
But one question, would you leave both fields, such subject and the body, editable, or just a preview, not enabling the user who is sending the email make last second edits to that.
I would say just a preview. I wouldn't want to make it.
Yeah.
I don't want to reproduce this whole configuration form there. Isn't there already a contrib module that lets you send a custom email as a bulk action?
Maybe. It probably is. There's lots of email modules, so it wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, because I feel like you wouldn't want if usually these, you know, in some cases these might be set by policy. So like the organization will decide, might have decided these are the emails we want to send. So they probably don't want people being able to override these templates.
Good point. Yep.
Back to that bulk confirmation page. So then there wouldn't be, in a way, so the confirmation button would be the send button that's separate in each tab.
Yeah, so on this screen, you select which option you want for the cancellation, and you confirm. The difference would be if we use the same pattern, it would be you would get those vertical tabs. Again, you would select the tab you want, you would see the preview, and then see a button that would send the email to all selected users.
Yeah, and then where would we have the cancel button? Would that also be inside the tab? Because selecting a tab is a viewing thing, so the action button should be inside that tab. So I was thinking, why should we put the cancel button then?
Personally, I would just put it like at the bottom of the page, or just not have a cancel button, because like you can use the, you know, I don't want to say users can just use the browser back button, but I feel like we just need a cancel button at the bottom of the page would be fine, I guess.
But having a single button that is just canceling would also look odd somehow and unusual.
I mean, you can, do we need a cancel button? Like you can use the breadcrumb up there to get back to the people screen.
Usually cancel is one of the 10 principles for Nielsen, kind of part of the error recovery. So that's one of the 10 principles. So you can go back, and it's kind of also it would make sense to have it kind of the same always.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so my vote would be just have it at the bottom of the page, because like it would be kind of weird to have a cancel button. I mean, I don't know, would feel weird. It would feel unnecessary to have the cancel button inside each tab, because like the send email button inside each tab is dependent on which tab you've selected, but the cancel button in all cases just goes back to the people.
So we're getting close to the end of the hour. I guess I tried to close out discussion on this issue 15 or 20 minutes ago. I don't think there's a lot to say.
You can blame me for that.
Well, you know, I'm not always right. That's okay. We wanted to discuss it. We discussed it. But can we wrap it up?
Yeah, I think I feel like we're at a good point.
Okay. Ralph, can you add the comment? Are there any questions you still have about what the recommendations are?
I would write up a draft and post it in the UX channel first
Okay,
for you to have another look. I've already taken alongside a few notes during the discussion. Otherwise, it would be hard to remember everything. But still, it is an ongoing issue. Many people are invested in it. So in regards, and those recommendations bring in a few more changes, and just want to make sure we phrased it correctly.
okay. Yeah, can I share my screen for a couple of minutes? Thank you. So I just want to celebrate that we made progress on rearranging the block configuration. Just have to find the right. There we go. Find the right window. So I think you should now see. I was just looking to see if there were config modules that do it. That's not what I want to talk about. What I want to talk about is move custom block library to content was fixed a few days ago. That's 2862564. And that's moving the custom block library. Yes, it's moving the custom block library, which used to be a child page of block layout, to a tab on the main content page. So admin content now has custom blocks as one of its tabs. So yay, that one was fixed. We're 2/3 of the way there. The next one is move the block layout link out of the structure menu. That's 3318112. And I think that Aaron's suggestion of putting it in the appearance menu is the one most people like. I guess when I created this issue, that was such a new idea that I didn't want to recommend it as the only approach, but I listed a couple of options. But I think moving it to appearance is the right thing. And I think just down at the bottom of this page, LA Roland added the subsystem maintainer review tag, because this is not block content, this is the block module. So Tim Plunkett and not me, but Benji with a Y, are the maintainers of that module. So I think we need to get their input before we can close this issue.
Yeah.
Although I think anyone who wants to could start work on the issue without.
Yeah, I
waiting
think
for
we
that.
the first thing to do would be we just need to update the issue summary and flesh it out a little bit. So I might be able to do that today actually. I'd very briefly started doing it last night just by adding a link to the meta issue, but yeah, we can should be able to do that.
Yeah, on the one just fixed, I made some effort to give a detailed proposed resolution, and a version of that could be added here. And we are at the top of the hour, and I have another work meeting coming up. So I think I'm going to close it there. Thank you for coming, and we'll do it again next week.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank
Have
you.
a nice weekend.
Likewise, thank you.